So where the indexer store the logs? In indexer, so let me draw it here. In indexer, once the logs will come in indexer, right? In indexer means it will have a storage, right? So indexers have multiple storage groups. Indexers will have multiple storage group. Why? Means different storage group we call it indexes. In this indexer, there are multiple storage groups that we call as indexes. Indexes, right? The whole Splunk enterprise, which we nominate as index, will call indexers. But inside the indexers, to hold different logs, we have different storage groups that we call as indexes. For example, you have for example, this is a tank. You have big tank on which you have blue balls. चलो ठीक है, रेड ले लेते हैं. Red balls, pink, right? He is Mradul. ये Mradul है. Mradul. And here you have some other small tanks, small buckets. नहीं, small buckets. Multiple different buckets you have here. In pink bucket, you have pink balls, right? You have given the name, right? This bucket name is pink bucket, right? And balls are pink inside. Bucket name you have given pink so that you identify, okay, this bucket is having pink balls, right? This bucket name you have given green so that you can identify, okay, this bucket holds the green balls, and this bucket name you have given yellow so that you should know this bucket name is the bucket is having yellow balls, right? Now he is Shubham. Okay, now I asked Shubham and Mradul both. Shubham की spelling है Shubham Mradul एक साथ हो गया था. Shubham and Mradul both, right? That I'm asking Shubham, Mradul to search for red balls. Search, I asking that search 20 red balls. I'm asking him search for 20 red balls, and I'm asking Shubham also search for 20. Sorry, red तो नहीं है इसमें. Pink, sorry, pink. 20 pink balls, and I'm asking him also to search for 20 pink balls. So what do you think that who will be able to search faster, he or he? Who will win?
Shubham.
Shubham, right? Shubham. Because how many buckets, for example, total 100 balls are there in this big tank, total 100 different balls, right? While total 100 different balls are there on the different buckets. So first of all, if Shubham, what is the approach for Badul is, he will go on one tank only and will start, okay, this is not, this is blue, this is red, oh, this is pink, one I found, again pink, this one, it will take time. But now Shubham approaches, out of these balls, so I identify because that pink ball directly, pink ball, yes or no? So we have tell him go on pink ball. So instead of telling him go on tank, and one tank means this tank name is, for example, tank. This name is tank. So I'm telling him go on the tank and search for pink ball. While I am searching, go on the pink bucket and search for pink ball, 20 pink balls. So this will be faster. Yes or no? So if we are having one storage where we are collecting all the different devices logs, and we have the separate devices, we have separate storage. यार ये
white light போட்டுக்கோ.
white light போட்டு. अरे यार ये so if we are having different storage group, right, for different devices logs. For example, if you are searching firewall logs, then define the bucket name firewall, storage group name firewall. If you have Windows logs, give the storage name Windows. If you have Linux logs, give the storage name Linux. And then search the means instead of searching the whole storage, search on particular bucket only. The search will be faster. Yes or no? Understand? Search will be the faster.
Yes.
Right? So this different storage group we call as indexes in the Splunk. So one of the reason of going with the different indexes is for faster searching. This is a question from interview perspective. Why to have different buckets, different indexes? The storage group is different. The storage group in index in the Splunk language, Splunk name has given indexes, right? So total by default in the indexes, when you install Splunk Enterprise, right? You understand Splunk Enterprise have all the functionality: collect, receiving, forwarding, keeping, indexing, searching, right? So by default, once we install Splunk Enterprise, it has total 11 indexes. How many indexes it has? It has total 11 indexes, such as one index name is main index, internal index, internal, introspection, introspection, history, matrix, and so on. Total you will find a document, but there are total 11 indexes. Get I mean? Total by default, once you install this Splunk, there are total 11 indexes. However, if you want to create customized indexes yourself, you can create multiple such customized indexes. But when you install Splunk, you have these total 11 indexes. Out of these 11 indexes, only main index is the only index which by default, you understand what I'm saying? Main index is we call it a default index. Whenever you are integrating devices with Splunk, right, data will come and store the main index. All the data, all different device data. That means the data which are coming from the end devices will be stored on which index? Main index. This out of 11, this 10 indexes are being used for to hold Splunk internal event. Different type of event of Splunk own will be stored on this 10 indexes. Only this particular index will store the logs which are coming from end devices. Get it mind? Will be stored by the main index. However, we can create customized index for main end devices also. Firewall index, Windows index, Linux index, database index, understand? Application index. Understand? So understand one reason why to create indexes for faster searching. For example, if you have created one index in the main, for example, main is by default index, right? You have created firewall index. Firewall. Another you have created Windows. Then apart from this 10, okay? One is 11th is main, then 12th is firewall, 13th is Windows, right? Because you cannot delete the default indexes. What indexes you create, you can delete. Get it mind? Or disable. But this default index you cannot delete or disable. Your default indexes, okay? So for example, and you have a database index. Database. These are customized indexes, right? So for example, so while we are collecting the logs, right? That means while you are integrating devices, that time it gives option. It asks, where do you want to keep the data? Which index? Yes or no? So by default setting is main index. default index is main index. Get it, fine? So if you are not changing, the logs will by default will get stored in main index. However, if you go on the drop down box and select, if you have already created this index, then you can select from drop down box. Or that time also it gives the option to create a new index. Get it, fine? So if you select firewall, the logs will be stored on the firewall index. Understand? For example, if you selected for firewall index, for Windows index, for database index, right? While you search the log on the search head, now for example, if you want to search firewall logs, right? So log in the search head, right? In search head, you have search bar, right? So if I want to search firewall logs, what I have to define here?
Index is equal to firewall.
In that case, I have to define the index. Index is equal to, I have to define index is equal to, I have to start my query, index is equal to firewall. Then further, what you want, for example, source IP equal to this one, or destination equal to this one. Further, you can further in firewall, what logs you want, denied event or permitted event or event from particular source IP or particular destination IP. Further query you can rate further. But you have to start your query with index equal to firewall. Get it? Similarly, if you want Windows logs, you have to type index equal to Windows. For example, if I am starting my query without defining the index, for example, I have written the query for some logs, but I have not defined index is equal to something. Then what will happen in that case? On which index it will search, but it will not return any index.
Main index.
Main index.
Right. If the answer is not correct, by default, right now it will search on main index, but the answer is not correct. You should say it will search on the default index. But by default index is main index. However, you have the option to change the default index. If you want to search, for example, if you want to search always firewall logs, then firewall index, you can make it a default index. So whenever you run any query, if you do not define the index, it will search on the firewall index. But by default index is main index. So if you change the configuration, then it will search by default on the main. But if you change the default index, then whatever default index it will be happening, it will search the log on the default index. Understand? So what is the default index? Main. So when you search and do not define index, which index it will search? Default index, right? Understand? So now the question on the same, you write the title, why to create indexes, why to create customized indexes, why to create customized indexes. Just give me a moment, okay? I'm just coming.
So you are not audible.
You are on mute.
So first reason you don't need to write right now. That we explain all the reason. Then we write. First reason understand why to create. Because first searching instead of giving main index, if you define the index, it will search on particular index only. It will not search on all other index. Right? Means smaller bucket will search for an index. So one is faster searching, and second reason different retention period. For example, as per the compliance, firewall logs will be stored for 5 years. Windows logs will be stored for 3 years. Linux log you want to store for 2 years. Yes or no? So if you have only one storage, even Windows log you want to store for 2 years, but firewall log for 5 years, then whole retention period for all the logs should be 5 years. Yes or no? You can't set different retention period for same index. Understand? So if we have different customized indexes, we can configure different retention period based on the requirement. Understand? Right? So that is second reason. And third reason is role-based access. We can give the role-based access. For example, many times, you know what will happen? Once you integrate all your device with this Splunk, right? Your network device, security device, servers, application, database, etc. For example, so now these devices will not store the logs locally, because as soon as they generate the log, they will forward to your Splunk. Now, sometimes your firewall team may look, we want some log for troubleshooting perspective. Then in that case, they will send an email and they will ask you, Bhaiya, can you search for last 15 days logs for this particular device and send it across? Sometime database team will reach out to you. They want to investigate, analyze some data for troubleshooting perspective. They will reach out every time. That means we have some people, one people at least dedicated, who will be serving this log request. Yes or no? Or for example, this database team also want to monitor some changes or some issues on the database from troubleshooting perspective. In that case, it will be very difficult. And every time they will request, we have to pull the logs and send to them. It is good, right, if we can give the access to them. But for example, if I'm giving Splunk access to the database team, then whenever they search, yeah, guys, who is not on mute? Sheikh Farooq. Sheikh Farooq Abdullah. I don't know why people joining and they're not muting. What I'm saying is, what I was telling. So database team, I want to give, if I want to give the access to this Splunk so that I can, avoid my overhead of searching, giving the logs to them. If so, I can create all the team account on the Splunk. But in that case, everybody can search. Say database team giving access to the database logs does not have any security concern, right? Because anyways, it is owned by them only. But if database team access firewall logs, router logs, and other device application logs, there's a security concern. Yes or no? So in that case, if I have only one index, I cannot give the role-based access. But if you have separate devices, separate indexes, then while I create the account Splunk, in privileges, access privileges, when I assign, we have option to assign the indexes. If database team account I have created, I can give the access to the database index only. So whenever they will search the logs, they have to type index is equal to database, then only they will get the data. If they will type some other indexes, they will not see any data because they don't have access. Means their search query will only run when they type index equal to database. Otherwise, it will give 0 result. Understand? So we can avoid the overhead. We can give the role-based access. If they have database team, we can create the account and we can give the access to the database. Right? Also, for different set of user, different roles, we can set the default index also. Because database team, every time they have to write index equal to database. But those user, we can type default index as database. They can directly start their query and they don't need to define the index. So whenever they run the query without defining the index, by default it will go and run on the database index. Yes or no? But sometimes performance matters. If you give the access to so many user. Maybe they may create so many searches. They may create some reports. This will multiple report, multiple searches they can do at the same time. So in this Splunk and the user management, you have option, because more and more searches, more and more resource utilization, more and more dashboard you create, again they're searching only. Report you create, again search only. More overhead on search as well as indexer. In that case, you have option to define how many concurrent search they can run. Yes or no? So multiple such configuration related to search are there on the configuration user management, which we could define. Okay, this database team should not be running too many concurrent search. Concurrent means at the same time. Get it mind? At the same time, this search local searching, different local search at the same time. If they're creating a dashboard, how many they can create, we can also define, so that they should not be using too much of resources. Get it mind? We can define, right? So another advantage of going the customized indexes is we can give the role-based access. Yes or no? Different indexes to the different set of people based on the role. Understand? Let's write. Why to create indexes? Why to create customized indexes? You have written, right? First is for faster searching, right? You understand already? First is why to create customized indexes. The heading was why to create customized indexes. One is for faster searching. You already knows, right? No need to explain in detail. You already knows it. Faster searching. First is faster searching. Second is we can define different retention period. Different log retention period. We can define different logs retention period based on the type of devices. Based on the type of devices. Based on the type of devices as per the requirement. As per the requirement. ये दिव्यांश के नाम से दो लोग ज्वाइन किए हैं भाई. दिव्यांश, दिव्या also joined with 2 devices. एक डिवाइस रिमूव कर दिया देखो. That is the reason I am going to है ना. हाँ, registered people only. I can see 2 people has joined.
Sir, I'm Divya here. I have joined only with my mobile.
That is the reason you joined from 2 devices, because you have, next time you will be only. But I can see Divya had joined 2 devices. Come. Anyways.
Maybe I am using my mobile instead of my laptop.
Okay. Anyways, next time only people will be joined from 1 devices only will be able to join. So what you have written? The second one is we can define the different log retention period based on the type of devices as per the requirement. Understand? Third is we can give the role-based access on the indexes. We can give the role-based access on the indexes, right? You understand?
Role-based access
on the indexes. Understand all 3 points? Understand? Clear?
Yes.
So you understand? So indexers will have indexes, right? Total by default 11 indexes, right? Indexes, right? Total by default 11 indexes, and they can you can create the customized indexes as well, right? For example, this is main, this is internal, this is firewall, right? Now, important to understand, every indexes now further will be having buckets. The index directory is not a storage, that is indexes will store the logs further in the buckets. Every indexes will have by default and total 5 buckets. 11 indexes. These are indexes. And every index, these are 1 index, 2 index, 3 index. Every indexes will have buckets, right? For example, so मैं इसको remove कर रहा हूँ because of places, right? So for example, there is 1 bucket main. So every indexes that you have, right, will have buckets. I will have after, for example, indexes. Then after that, you will have buckets. For example, this is a main index, right? So every index will have buckets, right? And total, how many buckets?
5.
5.
7.
5. First bucket is, anybody knows?
Hot bucket. Hot bucket.
Hot bucket.
Hot, then
Warm.
warm, then
Cold and
Cold.
cold, then
Frozen.
Frozen.
frozen, then
Hot bucket.
Rapid.
archive.
thawed, right? Hot, you're very hot. Warm, cold, frozen, and thawed, right? So these are the further, in every indexes, there are further 5 buckets, right? Again, small buckets, right? So what happens is, in hot bucket, again, you will have a small multiple buckets. It's not a single bucket again. Sorry, अब मैं नहीं बनाता आगे, है ना? क्या? So you can see hot, warm, cold, and frozen buckets, right? So this is not single bucket. Again, it is having multiple buckets. So number of bucket and size of the bucket define how long it can hold the data. Understand? If, for example, buckets are 3, but every bucket is of 10 liters, normal bucket, 3 bucket 10 liters, 30 liters. But if you have 2 buckets of 20 liters and 40 liters, but if you have 10 bucket of 10 liter, 100 liters, right? Then multiplication of number of bucket and size of bucket give the actual size, total storage, number of bucket and size of the bucket, right? So how long you want to store the data on the particular index, you have to define number of bucket and size of the bucket, right? On the later part, you'll understand what is the default and how much we can define. Get it right? Similarly, warm also multiple bucket. These all are different number of buckets, right? We want to hold the data for long time, right? Number of bucket will be high as well as size of the buckets. Get it right? Understand? So what will happen is these bucket on the hold in the hot bucket, buckets are on the open state. Get it right? As soon as data comes on the indexer, what indexes you have defined will go on the index, then particular index, the data will go on the hot bucket is open state. As soon as the data come, as per the size of the data, right? As per the bucket, once the bucket gets filled, it will be closed. Bucket will be closed, right? Then it will be here only. Now you define the retention period. For example, you define 30 days retention period on the hot. On the hot bucket, retention period is 30 days. So if all the bucket gets filled, then bucket will roll over to warm. Or if the retention period comes to 30 days, then hot bucket will roll over to warm. Understand? Clear this point?
So is there any storage limit also in bucket?
That is what I'm telling. Every bucket will have size, right? And size and number of buckets. Calculation of multiplication of both define the total storage. I already said, maybe for example, 10 GB, 1 GB or 10 GB, right? How much you would define to want to give that size of the bucket, you can give the size, as well as number of buckets. The multiplication of both will be giving the total storage size. Get it? I mean, the total storage size, as well as you can define the retention period. So if retention period comes past 30 days or hot buckets, all the bucket gets full, the bucket will roll over to warm. Understand what I'm saying? Clear? Yes or no?
Yes, clear.
Yes, sir.
So what happens
Yes.
is, what happens? We do not give bigger retention period on the hot bucket. The data that we are frequently searching, because hot bucket will be the fastest searching, will give the fastest result, right? So data which is there on the hot bucket will give the faster result. It's same, either you search on the small bucket or big tank. Hot bucket size will give the smaller. 30 days, for example, 15 days, 30 days, 70 days. If number of hot bucket and size will be less, the searching will be faster. Yes or no? For example, if you're searching the data, for example, 30 days retention period you're giving, some log you're searching for 15 days. Within 15 days, the search result will be faster because 15 days data falls within 30 days, which is the point of hot bucket. That means the search result will be faster. If you search for the data on 31st days onward, the data has rolled over to warm bucket. And warm bucket, maybe you keep the data for 3 months or for 6 months. Yes or no? So warm is slower searches compared to hot. Hot has the fastest search, and size of the warm bucket we comparatively more because you have got for 6 months. So data that you're frequently searching, maybe your dashboard is populating the data, alerts you are searching, schedule reports you are scheduling for within 1 month or within 15 days or 7 days report you're scheduling. It will be faster search so that it can populate the data properly. So that time data will keep on the hot. Warm, that you are not searching frequently, but sometime you're searching. We'll keep the data retention period, for example, 6 months or 3 months on the warm. After warm, it will go over to cold, slower search. Slower search that logs you're really, for example, you're keeping the log for 3 years, 5 years. So after 6 months, the data will roll over to cold, and cold is the bigger storage. It's a big tank, and search will be slower. Understand? Yes or no? So in all this, apart from host, all the storage will be in closed bucket. Bucket will be closed means new data will not be written on directly in warm and cold. It will be written on the hot bucket only. Only hot bucket will be on open state. That means once the logs written on the hot bucket full, it will close and give the name hot. That means, understand what I'm saying? Hot and warm bucket are being stored on the same path. For example, whenever you are storing anything, right, you give the path. You give the path. For example, in Windows, you will go C drive, then program file, for example, program file, then you have user, then you have desktop. In the desktop, you have my data folder. For example, my data. So in my data only, for example, in this default path, here you have hot also, and same you have warm also. Warm and hot will be on the same path, while cold will be on different path. That means if I'm assigning storage, same storage, I can store hot, I have hot and warm same path. Means we did not to, there is no option to define different path. Hot and warm will be on same path, while cold there will be separate path, separate storage. Get in mind, when data is moving from hot to warm, it is not actually idly moving. It will just change the name from hot to warm. It will remain because same folder it is. Yes or no? It is same path only. Data is not ideally moving. It just changed the name from hot to warm, but it will remain there on the same folder. Understand? But when data roll over from warm to cold, then it changed from the place. एक मिनट, हाँ, हेलो, हाँ, सेशन में हूँ, 10 मिनट बाद कॉल करता हूँ, है, हाँ, ठीक, हाँ. So when this data will roll over from warm to cold, then it will change from path because separate paths are cold. Understand? Clear what I'm saying? Everybody?
Yes.
That is the reason it is recommended hot and warm, because same path, same disk, same storage. It is recommended that hot and warm should be on faster storage, fastest storage, which is, what is the faster disk available? SSD. Yes or no? There are two types of disk nowadays coming, HDD and SSD, right? Typical old laptop, you have hard drives. Nowadays, it's coming with solid state drive. SSD claims that we are 100% faster, 100 times faster than hard drive. Now, new laptops are coming with the SSD, which are much faster than before. Yes or no? Because the retrieving the time of retrieving time of the data is faster compared to hard drive. I mean, so but solid state drive is costlier, much costlier than hard drive, right? So at least 3 months, 6 months, that fast data you're coming hot and warm should be on a hard drive, so that the data retrieval time will be less, means much faster in response. Response will be faster. Yes or no? So for hot and warm, we should go for SSD, and for cold, because the data size will be huge in many terabyte. Yes or no? So if your company can bear the cost of terabyte, that's good. Otherwise, you can go with the hard drive. Hard drive is comparatively slower storage. Understand? Clear? Everybody is clear? Hot, warm, and cold so far?
Yes.
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 Sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now frozen. See, you understand? Hot, warm, and cold, right? These all storage, right, is there in the Splunk that you can configure. It's mandatory. If you are not giving the path, by default, it will give its own path within the Splunk, where you install the Splunk folder. On the same path, by default, it will take. If you want to give a different path, you can define, but it's mandatory. Yes or no? But frozen path, frozen bucket is not mandatory. Maybe it is not there, and it is out of the Splunk. It is optional. It's optional. Frozen is nothing but the archival. For example, this total retention period you have given for 5 years. By default, it is 6 years, right? When you create any indexes, by default, customer indexes, you do not define retention period. By default, it is 6 years, right? But if you change it to 5 years, so this total means all these 3 buckets are only storing the data, actual data, hot, warm, and cold. 6 year retention period you given 5 years. After 5 years, the data will be deleted automatically, first come, first out basis. Yes or no? After 5 years, the data will be deleted, but some company may have requirement. Whenever you understand, right, deploying the SIEM, doing real-time monitoring, correlation alerting, it's a compliance requirement for many companies. If you read the compliance document, it will be written how many days or how many years the data should be online, and how many times the data should be offline. Online and offline retention period separated may be written. Online means it should be searchable all the time. So why do we need to keep the log for 3 years, 5 years? Why we are keeping the log for many years? Why compliance say that you have to keep the log for 5 years or 3 years?
For forensic.
For the forensic requirement. Yes or no? Because attack is coming right now, we have the logs, right? But in case some fraud happen, yes or no? So we Kade Murti ukhadna. Yes or no? In case some fraud happen, then we have to do the forensic to find out what had happened, who has done it. So how will he come to know? Based on the logs only. So we should have the logs, right? That's the reason compliance says that based on the type of industry and based on what kind of data they are holding, we have to keep the log for a long time. So on the compliance document for some of the industry, it will be written how long online and how long offline. If you are keeping the data many years for online, maybe the search will be slower. Yes or no? Get in mind? So it will be written, okay, at least 5 years online means should be available all the time. Yes or no? And for example, 3 years offline. 3 years offline means you can define the frozen path. Once the data reaches 5 years, it will move to frozen path. Frozen path is separate storage. It can be hard drive, external tapes, SAN or NAS network storage. You can give any storage path. The data, instead of deletion, data will be moved to the frozen path. External tape, hard drives, network storage. But that data will not be searchable. Safer side, the data has been written. But whenever you want to search, all the time the data will not be searchable. But in case some forensics requirement happen, ideally it may not be required. But in case some critical, some incident happen, need to do the forensics, right? That's the reason, that purpose only we are keeping the data offline further. Right? So in case some forensic requirement that, okay, this 3 years data also should be making searchable, then you can connect. Anyways, this storage is already connected. If not connected right now, you have to connect, and there is a restore command on the Splunk, how to restore the data on the Splunk, right? So once you run the restore command, the data will be restored on the Splunk, and that restored data will be coming on the which bucket? Third bucket. Third. Understand? Third bucket. So you have the option once, for example, once your forensics done, now unnecessary data is there in the Splunk, you have option to delete this third bit again. Because data is still it's a copy, right? Storage means copy. The data is already available in the archive, means external storage. भैया ये दीपू यार प्रॉब्लम क्या है तुम्हारे साथ? व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम विथ यू? चलो इसको ना पर्सनली बोलना पड़ेगा. It's been second time. So what I'm saying is, and it's not something that you are unmuting. The thing is, you're unmuting and there's a background noise. Your wife is continuously communicating with you. So what I was telling? I was telling, once you connect and want to restore, the data will be restored on third bucket, and it will be now searchable. Get in mind? So once your forensic work is done, unnecessarily data is still on third bucket, you have option to delete the data here. Because data is already in frozen on the external path, right? That is called as third buckets. Clear? On Splunk Advanced is a part of admin. Splunk document I already written, but in the Splunk admin document that I will show you, book I'll share with you. So on which I have written command also. It's a very small command. Once you connect to storage, that's one command that you have to run. Automatically data will be restored on the third bucket. Got it? Any confusion? Confusion?
No, can you repeat the last one? Can you repeat the last bucket?
Sorry, sir, come back.
Can you repeat the last bucket?
Last bucket is third bucket. Third bucket means if you want to restore the frozen data, archive data, you just connect the archival from your Splunk, then the restoration command. Once you run the restore command, the data from frozen means archival will be restored on the third bucket, and now the data will be available for searching. Got it? Once you search, want to remove, then you can remove.
Retention period for the cold packet is between 6 and 1 year.
For what? For what? Retention period for?
For the cold packet.
For a cold bucket, it depends on requirement. It depends on requirement. We can set separately how long we want to set. For example, total retention period you want to set for 5 years, right? So how many time for hot, how much time for warm, how much for cold, we can configure.
Sir, third is like a recycle bin. Sir.
What?
Whether third is like a recycle bin after the.
It's not recycle bin. I mean, recycle bin has a different work, right? If by mistakenly you have deleted, it will be gone on a trash, right? So, but frozen is archival kind of backup, right? While if you want to take and make the frozen data searchable, then you can connect and restore on the third bucket.
Okay.
Okay, got it? Clear?
So the frozen data would be in online or it's offline?
Of course, offline, right? We are making it online on the third bucket after restoration command. Frozen is kind of archival, separate storage out of the Splunk, any network storage. Maybe it's a disk, hard drive. You have taken the backup, copy paste, right? For example, manually, right? Or it can be tapes, or directly you have configured network path, so automatically backup will happen, and that data will not be searchable. You want to make it searchable, then you have to restore, and the restore data will be available in the third bucket.
That data will be uploaded. Yeah, that's fine. Thanks.
So once your work is done for searching on third data that you have restored, you have option to delete that data as well. Unnecessarily it is there on the Splunk. Got it?
Okay.
Clear?
Thanks. Yes.
So who will be deciding the retention period?
Who will be?
Deciding the retention periods for the
deciding. See, I mean, its ideal is more the retention period, slower the searching, right? So ideally, hot bucket will configure 1 month, warm maybe 3 to 6 months, rest on the cold, and depend on the company to company. If I'm part of implementation team, a solution architect, I will discuss with the client. I'll give the merits and demerits. If you keep the data long time for hot bucket, data search will be slower, right? So better the faster searching, hot 15 days to 1 month, around 6 months to 3 months to 6 months warm, and remaining. That is the best practice. That is the best practice. Rest is up to you. If you keep most of hot only, means one tank only, right? I don't know what is the use of bucket. Different tank and further. Got it?
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, guys. So we made it for the day. We connect on Saturday.
So, sir, one question.
Yes.
These buckets name is cold, hot, warm, frozen. To use these actual name and you use to for understanding
actual name. Okay, I will share you the book also that I have created for Splunk administrator. I will share in the group. You guys can go through it. Everything is written on that book. Okay.
Actually, it will help, sir. It will help us.
I have created myself. Do not share with anyone. It takes many months for me to create that. So do not it out.
I have two questions for you. Number one question: what's the difference between security enterprise and ITSI? Are they doing the same job or something?
ITSI. That is a different. That is the different app. Like Splunk Enterprise Security is one of the app. Similarly, ITSI is one of the app for different functionality that you can